From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief creator of Amazing Ideas at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's podcast, I sit down with my monthly co-host, Ryan Waterbury. And Ryan and I talk about ethics when you move a client on to another provider. And we talk about some things that providers and clients can do to protect themselves. So grab a drink, sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. This podcast is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing agency for all your business needs. We are also your WordPress security experts, having over 14 years of experience locking down, backing up, and protecting WordPress websites. Go to stunningdigitalmarketing.com for more info or stunningdigitalmarketing.info for links to everywhere we can be found on the web. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here with the STM Show. And in today's podcast, I'm here with my monthly co-host, Mr. Ryan Waterbury. How are you today, Ryan?
Oh, it's fantastic. Days are getting shorter, mornings are cooler, fall is upon us.
Yeah, I think so. And not officially till September, but it's, in Toronto, fall is upon you when we get to the August long weekend, which it is. And then you've got the Canadian National Exhibition 2 weeks after that, and it really starts to get cool down by Lake Ontario. So, yeah, it's that time of year. How are you doing?
Busy. And, I think that's what spurred the topic of the show this week. Just a lot of little things have popped up from other providers and their policies and how they treat their clients, and especially when they offboard them.
Yep. Yeah, so true. But before we jump into other providers, one of the things that providers do is they tend to register domains for clients, and that's a problem. And I'm a big believer that a client needs to own all its digital assets. These are not the property of the providers, they're the property of the client. And my contracts all say that. And frankly, at the end of the day, I've been through this mess as well. So clients, at least own your domain names, please. Like, even if the provider has to create a Gmail account, register them for you, and give you the Gmail account and the access to the domain registration account, you own those. There's no way your provider should own your domains.
And that extends to all the properties, your Google business profile, analytics. I mean, right down to your web content. I mean, that's why we use WordPress, so you own your content and your assets. But what I ran into, and this is less popular, but the smaller agencies that kind of came out of maybe hosting and telecommunications out in the late tens and mid-teens, where it was popular to resell domains, hosting, email, do web design, do SEO, just a one package for everything. And I'm starting to see some of those clients, come around and they're like, oh, I need to do something for my site. My traffic's down, and finding out that they don't own their domain name.
Yeah.
That their provider had it, and I've seen that more and more where providers own too many things. And, it might seem like a nice thing to do, especially I have a lot of non-tech savvy clients, but that is one thing that I won't do. If I have to register the domain name, I'm transferring it to them as soon as possible.
Yeah.
We'll hop on a video call. I'll put in their credit card information, get them set up as the owner, and then move me to the technical contact on the account. There's just no other way that I'd have it. If they ever want to leave, if God forbid I get hit by a bus, they they can keep their business alive and control their assets.
Yeah, it's so true. You were tweeting about that this week. You went through it with a client, and I'll share a similar story that's worth telling. I had a political client when I first started my agency. I did a website for. We went to do the domain, and the previous web developer wouldn't give them their domain. They registered it for them, and they. So I immediately filed an appeal with ICANN. That's the only way to go, and I can within 30 days release that domain. But we had to hold back a new website for 30 days because this web developer did it. Now, the web developer didn't do themselves any good because in the local area, this was the party of record, and there were people on that committee that had a lot of influence. But that's problem number one. And the other problem is, while we're talking about owning assets and domains, is please don't take a free domain ever from a web host, because you don't own that domain. The web host actually owns that domain, not you.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And that that instance came up today. I just launched a site with a client on Friday of last week, and they're thrilled. They already have a couple of dozen new leads. They're much easier to collect in there. And I said, before you forget, we need to follow up and figure out what to do about your domain. Really nice local business, really astute guy. He's around my age, maybe a little younger. Did a DIY site integration where they sold the domain, Google Workspace, same kind of a deal. I mean, it's great when people start out, but I said, we need to really think about when you get ready to transfer your domain, you're going to have to jump through a few hoops.
Yeah.
Now, being that they own it, they still allow you to transfer it, but I found out the release fee, and it's not cheap. It
No.
it's kind of a bite you in the rear when it comes to that. So it's it's been a series of gotchas within the past 6 months that kind of brought it up where I try and do right by my clients and make sure that they're set up for success, whether it's with me or another provider. And I'm finding out that especially in the web side of it, where we saw this in the marketing where there's a lot of shady and unethical things that, gave people bad names, and why small businesses didn't want to work with marketers for a while. And, I'm starting to see little things in the web industry that, I really hadn't seen for a while, that just kind of question, what we do as providers, and how we can do better by our clients.
Yeah. I think the best way is open communication. The other thing I always do when I set up a new website is the first thing I do, because I don't want assets going to an account that I don't have access to. And I don't want to ask client for access to their email account. I always set up a email account to go with that website. So typically a
Mhm.
Gmail account, and then any assets I register will be tied to that account, just because I believe in transparency. And then when I hand it over, I hand over the site and all the assets and the Gmail account, so the client's got
Mhm.
everything. And I'll do things like analytics will go there, things like that, so you don't have to worry about saying to a client, "Can you check this for me? Can you check that for me?" You just do it and be done with it.
Right. Yeah, that question kind of came up in an SEO group a few years ago. Question was, how many email addresses, have you registered? And I said, oh, a few hundred. And they were just like, what? And I do the same thing every time I would spin up a new client. I would set up a Gmail account, register all their assets, set up all their Google properties with it, and then give them access to that account after I've added all of our other relevant accounts. So they can delete the email account if they need to. But at least it's a neutral place to register items that I don't own specifically, that the client can have access to. It's easy to transfer. It's the right thing to do. And, because there's so many delegate access points now in the registrars and, the other tools that we have today, I find myself doing that less. But, I always tell my clients, only give access to other people up to the level that they need. And this includes your website, just for
Thank
security's sake.
you. That is here. We are in this mode, and I come out of an enterprise background. I spent years in healthcare, and we didn't give a nurse access to every patient in the hospital. We gave them access to the selected areas they worked in. So why when clients come to us and they demand admin rights, do we cave over as devs and designers and security guys and say, here's admin rights? I just don't do that. 99% of clients never need administrative rights to a website. So yeah, give them access to what they need. Thanks for mentioning that. It's really key.
Yeah, recently I've had a few clients that are like, well, I don't have access to the plugins. I said, when was the last time you installed one? Well, I haven't. There you go. And I limit access, to my clients on their site, mainly, so that they can't break the site. The few that I have, allowed to retain admin access, have caused some problems for security
Yep.
and conflicts. I'm working through one today. It's not a major one, but it turned out to be a plugin install, and we're going to have a chat about um, minimizing that in the future. But this goes for not just clients, but other vendors when they need to come in and do things. And I see this with SEO professionals a lot. They want admin access to the website to do things. And frankly, I do SEO, and you do not need that level of access to do your job.
I had a SEO professional once for a client that I fired, I should say that. And he demanded cPanel access on my server, and my contracts don't allow for that. And the client bitched and said, well, your contract says, that I have full access to all my stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but an SEO professional doesn't need cPanel access. They ask for the moon because they think they do. They need the moon.
Mhm.
You don't realize that they're tinkering, and then they cause other problems. So I'm not a big
Right.
fan over giving.
The the only access that you would need there is a Google, Microsoft, or maybe a Yandex verification code to be placed in the DNS record. And I'm happy to do that
Yeah,
for someone
me,
else. That is
me
the
too.
only thing that needs to happen. And there's a lot of damage you can do. So yeah, open communication, working with your clients, making sure that they own, the appropriate assets, is a really big deal. And, just being ethical about being a good provider, helps everyone in the industry and helps build trust with businesses out there.
I agree. I think part of the problem with people who do what we do is they're out of sight, out of mind too. And that's where the trust factor drops. So one of the things providers don't do a good job of is communicating. And I will say that, and I will say that, and I will say that. And then at the end of the year, you get a bill that says, thanks for being a client. Here's your renewal, and go away. And it's like, no. Why haven't you communicated with your clients all year in a newsletter, an email, or a check-in?
Mhm.
Why? I mean, I do both. I send out, as you know, global emails. I have one to go later on today. And then I send out client-specific emails. One and went out this morning that actually said, and
Mhm.
by the way, remember, Monday is a statutory holiday in Ontario, so we are not open. Things
Mhm.
like I normally do security updates on Mondays and Thursdays. Next week, I'm doing Tuesday and Friday. And one of the reason, frankly, is the WordPress release cycle too. We're doing an
Mhm.
update and just telling clients what's coming down the road. Like then it's not out of sight, out of mind either.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, speaking of newsletters, I try and share in my newsletters stories about my business and as a small business owner, how I've grown and overcome some issues. And then I also share, security news, SEO news, and little tidbits to help them. I can tell you that I get so many thank yous from my clients, and after almost every newsletter, they it's kind of a prompt that they need to take action,
Yeah.
and just keeping that touch point out and reminding them that one in my last newsletter, a big one was a website is never finished; it's just abandoned,
I agree.
and that SEO is a process, and it starts before your site launches, and it doesn't stop until Google says we're out of business.
And do you know how many abandoned websites there are on servers out there that there's security nightmares waiting to happen? I don't even want to talk about it. I was reading some stats last week. It's pretty incredible, Ryan, So how
So yeah, go ahead.
how else do you kind of deal with former providers that are unethical, by the way?
Uh, you know, uh, a lot of times it's just communication, and um, sometimes it's the clients aren't communicating what they need appropriately to their providers.
Yep.
And I found that when I've reached out directly and said, here's what they want to do. I just want to help them. And, you know, they've turned around and become better about releasing things and done it the right way. Part of it was because I asked for the things in an intelligent manner and I knew what I was asking for,
Mhm.
uh, where the client did not. So they were a frustrated or being held hostage a little bit. But honestly, it really does come down to communication. And sometimes, like you said, it's communicating with ICANN and taking legal action or action with committees that control access to some of those things
Yep.
because they won't let them go. And um, so, yeah, in the past, in just my past issue that I had talked about and tweeted, just reaching out to that provider and explaining what had happened and what needed to happen really went miles, and I got everything I needed within a couple of days. I did have to ping a few times and say, "Hey, I still need this," but they knew that they needed to release the things, and they did. And they've been mostly cooperative about it, and said, "Okay, we'll work with you because you're going to take on all the responsibility and the work of transferring this out, which is fine, and that's what I signed up for." But providers that hold on to these things and make it extremely difficult, um, one, it frustrates me and frustrates my client, and sometimes it's business downtime where
Yep.
and this isn't necessarily an ethical piece, but one of the sites that I took over had been hacked and was on a multiple blacklist with Google, McAfee, ran down the line, but it caused their Google business profile to be blacklisted. Um, and when her site wasn't up and she stopped getting phone calls through her Google listing for a week, uh, she kind of freaked out and said,
Yep.
"This is my livelihood. When I get 3 to 5 new clients a day that come through my website and Google My Business, when they don't have these things out there, you're done. I mean, that's for a lot of people, that's their whole business. So when a provider holds them hostage and takes it down or hinders improving or building a new site, um, that's really detrimental to the client. And I have serious problems with that.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, it's a big issue. The problem too is holding on to stuff is not the way to get reoccurring business. Like people, there are some providers out there who think, "Oh, this is the way I should do it. I own it. I did all the work," and I'm like, that's not the way to get trust in the community. And people talk, and they don't understand that you're far better off being upfront and doing the right things and going on from there.
Hmm.
How else would you suggest the business owner kind of future proofs their ability? Besides one I'll throw out there is don't have your domain and your hosting with the same company. I think that's a really bad idea, but
Right. Yeah. I mean, I like to register domain. Obviously, I used to do Google Workspace and Google Domains, which actually were two separate entities.
yeah.
But and that's why they spun off Google Domains. So now I actually recommend that, and this is for an uptime and security thing too, is that register your domain with either Namecheap or Cloudflare. Um, have your email with another provider. I have several depending on your needs, and then you're hosting in another location. Find a trusted web care or security partner.
Mhm.
There's You absolutely have to have someone that has your back and is looking out for your website, so you can go out and run your business or your nonprofit.
Yep.
So eh, those are the big things, and really finding a partner that you can communicate with. I've had two instances in the past year where I did web design work. The client felt that my ongoing hosting charge was a little high. They went somewhere else for a few months, had terrible service because I was open and communicated through the whole process. They came back and got on a web care plan, two of them.
Yep.
So, yeah, just being open, good communicator, responsible, and being good to your clients will win you back more business than you lose.
Yeah, and what I would say is your web host is your partner, not a vendor. And when web professionals
Mhm.
start treating web hosts as partners, not vendors, then it's a big difference on how you deal with them. I mean, I'm pretty lucky from, being known in the space. I've got partnerships at most of the big web hosts, so I don't run into problems. I host my own in a data center in the middle of nowhere as well, so that helps. But yeah, in the far, far away land somewhere. But but you get what I'm saying, right? You got to treat it as a partnership. I think that's really
Uh,
important.
abs- yeah, absolutely. And you know, my clients enjoy working with me. If they ever have any issues, they reach out to me first and say, "Hey, can you help me out here?" Even if it's not something on their web care plan, sometimes it's just answering a question. And the
Yeah,
fact that I built those relationships goes a long way, to that trust factor.
it does. Is there anything else you want to add on how to protect a client, or have we kind of
I
covered the
I
world?
think we covered it. Just some of the things that were on my mind.
Yeah,
Um, Own your domain name with your registrar. Make sure that you have access to your backups. Work with a trusted provider that is willing to work with you. And if you want to leave, they understand that they need to hand everything over when you need it.
yep, so true. Ryan, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how is the best way?
I would say every major social media network, but there are a few I don't do anymore. But you can look for me out there at One Dog Solutions on all the major ones, and
Yeah.
find me at my website onedog.solutions, or email me at ryan.waterbury@onedogsolutions.
And I think Ryan must have given his two office managers a tranquilizer because I have not heard them today. So,
The AC is on. It's training season for fall. So at 6 a.m. the alarm went off, and by 6:30 we were out running and doing drills. So they're wiped out right now. They're not young pups anymore.
That's a good thing. Ryan, thanks so much. Have a wonderful day as always, my friend.
You as well.
This podcast is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing agency for all your business needs. We are also your WordPress security experts, having over 14 years of experience locking down, backing up, and protecting WordPress websites. Go to stunningdigitalmarketing.com for more info or stunningdigitalmarketing.info for links to everywhere we can be found on the web. A very special thank you to Ryan Waterbury for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. This podcast is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much. I love you, and I think about you every day. For more information about Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing experts, go to stunningdigitalmarketing.com or go to stunningdigitalmarketing.info to find out all the great places that Rob Cairns can be found on the web.